Our next speaker is someone also who's well known to us here in central Pennsylvania, across the state and across the nation. Scott Perry serves us in the United States Congress after a career in the legislature and in the private sector. He's so admired by his colleagues in Congress that he was elected chair of the Freedom Caucus. He's so respected by the Speaker of the House that he was appointed to the House Select Committee on Intelligence. A career in government, a career in the private sector, and a career in the military. Let us never forget that Congressman Perry served us for nearly 40 years in the United States Army, retiring as a brigadier general. You may applaud for that. I've had the privilege of knowing Scott for many decades, and of his many accomplishments, I'll tell you that he's most proud of this. He is a dad and a husband. Ladies and gentlemen, a true American patriot and a friend of PLC, the Honorable Scott Perry.
Good morning, PLC. Good morning. God bless America. Happy 250 years of America. It's great to see you. Let's get started. Clock's already ticking. I told Loman, first of all, thanks to Loman Henry for making sure this is hard stuff, right? It doesn't just happen on its own. Thank you to Loman and his team for putting this together. We got a lot to talk about this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I thought about it last night. All the things I wanted to talk to you about, 15 minutes is not going to be enough for me. It's going to be much too much for you. But I'm going to start with the war in Iran, because we see things on TV. You see commentators, of course, the president. If he does something about Iran, he is wrong. If he doesn't do anything about Iran, he's wrong. If he's doing it too fast, it's wrong. If he's not asking for peace, it's all wrong. It's all wrong, right? And people ask me, reporters ask me, shouldn't you be reining in this president, this unchecked power? Ladies and gentlemen, I watched one guy on TV say the president, there's this huge reversal of policy unlike anything a president has ever done before, because the president ran on stopping endless wars, and now what? This war, ladies and gentlemen, has been raging for 47 years. The president is stopping another endless war right now. That's what's happening. What we should be doing is thanking the President of the United States of America for ending the murdering and maiming of thousands upon thousands of American citizens by Iran. Look at the death count. Look at the casualty count that Iran is responsible for. And as far as I can tell, on our side of the ledger, we got one. Guy's name is Soleimani, who was responsible in large part, for the thousands of deaths of Americans. You know who took that guy out? President Trump took that guy out, right? We should be thanking him for honoring the sacrifices of thousands and thousands of Americans who have had their lives taken by Iran. He's finally ending it. And I will tell you this, Iran has never think about it. Iran has never backed down to anyone. They've never backed down to anyone. And everybody said, well, he had this threat. He had this threat, and then he backed off of the threat. Because Iran finally caved to somebody. Ladies and gentlemen, I know, and I feel the same way. Look, I got kids. We want our president to be magnanimous and to have those standards of decorum that we're all used to. I get it, right? As we stand here, remember, as we sit here, years and years ago, there was a conference in Tehran, Iran, over World War II, where the Allies, where Churchill, Stalin, and FDR got together and discussed the American invasion of Europe in World War II. Now, they didn't tell everybody what they said, right? But this is 2021, and we Americans demand transparency. Well, the president is negotiating. By the way, any of these reporters, did they ever negotiate with terrorists? I don't think they did. But they demand all of it's out front so we can see what's being said. Now, I don't love my kids having to see those kind of things. I'm sure you don't either. But I will tell you this. Forget about how the president says what he says. Let's look at the result that's going to happen this weekend when J.D. Vance goes to Pakistan and work this out. All right? So everything in context. Everything in context. Which leads me to something else. You know, it has been said, I think it's misquoted, but it doesn't matter. We're going to give it to Thomas Jefferson anyhow. Eternal vigilance is the cost of freedom. Is the cost of freedom. And a lot of us feel like, well, I'm in the crowd, I'm a voter, I'm a citizen. What can I do with this eternal vigilance? What can I do? Well, at a minimum, selecting who leads you. Selecting, and I'm not talking about at the level I'm at. That includes that. Melissa Hart is here. She sat where she was in the arena, right? She knows that Keith Rothfuss is somewhere in the room here. He was in the arena. But it's not just your members of Congress. It starts at your township level, your borough level. It starts at your planning commission. What am I talking about? If you live outside of Plano, Texas, there's a place that was envisioned called Epic City. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Eternal vigilance, ladies and gentlemen. It requires knowing what's going on in the community around you. And there were a group of people that were going to construct a neighborhood where only certain people could live there, doing certain things that are antithetical to the United States of America and the things that we believe in. And somebody has to say no. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's the President of the United States, your United States Senator, your congressman. It might mean your planning commission. It might mean you. Eternal vigilance, ladies and gentlemen. We have a world now that has changed, and our Constitution didn't envision, I think, unfortunately, that there would be people in America elected to high office in positions of leadership that hate America. But you know what I'm talking about. Look, I work with some of them. I work in the same building with some of them. And we're going to need people with fortitude, people with a voice, people willing to stand up and say, some things have got to change here. Look, if you're fleeing oppression, God bless you. We want to help. Everybody wants to help. Every single American, certainly conservatives, Republicans, because we love people and we want to help people. So we want to help. However, if you're coming to America to tell us how to run our country like the one you just fled and hate America, I'm sorry, the door's closed, and it should be closed. Right? We've got to change some of our policies. And oh, by the way, if you got here and you fibbed a little bit about these things that we asked you on the way in, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to look at our denaturalization process. Because if you have lied, that is fraud. And you do not belong here anymore. And I know it's a difficult subject. But eternal vigilance is required. And if you look at what's happening to Western Europe, and you think, well, that's over there, it's across the ocean, it's England, it's France, it's Spain. Ladies and gentlemen, Spain was called Andalusia. After it was called Spain and before it was called Spain again, and Andalusia was the Islamic name for Spain. You know what else was a Christian country? Syria. How about Turkey? How about Iran? You think about Iran right now, the Islamic nation of Iran were Astrozarians. They were not Islamic. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not have to oppress our little girls and treat them like property. And we're not going to under the United States Constitution because we're going to do something about them. We are going to do something about it. Now, I want to talk to you about one last thing that you're seeing right now. We have this impasse of funding at the federal level. Let's just say it what it is, because it is what it is, and I speak plainly to you. I don't try not to be partisan, but the facts are the facts. The Democrats want to defund the police, right? And we see that in communities. We say, well, I would never live there, and that would never happen in my town. And maybe that's true, and I hope that is true. But it's happening at the federal level right now. because they passed a bill. Look, we've been fighting over this since last fall. Do you remember the first shutdown? They don't want to fund Homeland Security. Those are the people that protect your border. Those are the people that remove the criminal aliens who have stolen their way into our country. And they don't want to fund them. That is defunding the police. The bill that they sent over to the House 2 weeks ago, the Senate sent to the House and left town, says zero funding for border security and immigration and customs enforcement. Now, you know, look, the Speaker's a good man. He's a good man, tough, two-seat majority. No Democrat's going to help us. We got to do it all ourselves. But I went to the Speaker. I said, Mr. Speaker, I'm not voting for that. And none of us should be expected to vote for that. We're not going to defund them. We believe in law enforcement. We know it's essential in our community. It's one of the first things that your country, that your government does is protect its citizens. It's part of the duty. It says so in the Constitution. It says so, right? So we're not going to do that. We're going to put some program together. We're heading back in on Monday. We're going to put some program together. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go, and we're going to get that done. I don't know how I got my ideas. They're a little different than the Speaker's. We're going to have a conversation. We are going to get there. I guarantee you, with President Trump's leadership, Speaker Johnson, we are going to get there. But right after that, I want to talk to you about a thing called the Save America Act. I'm going to talk to you about the Save America Act. Did I just get more time, Loman Henry? I think I did. Maybe the next speaker's not on time. He's like, Perry, stall a little bit. Okay. Well, now I got time to tell you how this whole thing happened, because you think we just passed a bill in the House and sent it to the Senate, and then people started talking about it. Look, I don't watch a lot of movies, and this is generally a movie my wife would watch, but I watch it with The Devil Wears Prada, right? And the girl, anybody, ladies have seen this, right? And the one lady, the young lady who works for the Vogue magazine CEO or what have you, says, you think you picked that dress, you think you picked that sweater. That was picked for you a long time ago. Ladies and gentlemen, the Save America Act was envisioned not by our House leadership, certainly not by Senate leadership, by this band of often maligned individuals in the House of Representatives called the Freedom Caucus. We put the bill together. And then we worked on a plan that includes the inside game and the outside game. The inside game is what we're doing in the halls of Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate, the President. That's the inside game. The outside game is what you know about it and what you're going to do about it as citizens who are empowered, sovereign individual citizens that are empowered by your government to speak your mind. And we put that plan together and we sent it to the Senate. And the plan was this. We read their rules, right? They don't want to get rid of the filibuster. I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. They don't want to because we have stopped the crazy left from doing crazy things with the filibuster. And so we're hanging on. We're hanging on because we think that we're going to need it when the left is in charge. Ladies and gentlemen, I got news flash for you. When the left is in charge of the Senate, the filibuster is going to be gone. But that's how that's going to go. So we said, well, we've read your rule book. So, okay, we're going to grant you that you're going to hang on and act like the left is going to do the right thing. We're going to grant you that. But we see this other provision in there called the standing filibuster. You go to the podium and talk in the standing filibuster. What's required? The majority party, that's us, Republicans. You have to provide a quorum. You have to show up to work. Well, we elected you, so that seems reasonable. Show up to work. Anytime you're called, could be 8 o'clock in the morning, could be 2 o'clock in the morning. But it's the Senate, ladies and gentlemen. They're not moving real fast. So if we get a quorum call at 2 o'clock in the morning, you want to get up from bed, take a shower, have a meal, take a stroll around the visitor center, it's okay. We'll wait. When you get there, we'll proceed. You just have to show up. We need 51 to show up when the quorum is called, right? That's all we need. And then the debate starts. Once the debate starts, each Democrat and each Republican gets 2 opportunities to speak. Speak as long as you want to for each Democrat, as long as they want. And you know what? I want them to talk about it. If they want to talk for a couple weeks about how people illegally should vote in America without identification, God bless them. Speak, talk. Tell the world. We want you to talk. But at the end of that process, because the Senate always has to be doing something, right? They either have to be debating, a quorum call, or a vote. At the end of that process, you know what happens? There's a vote. And it only takes 50 under that process. It only takes 50. And we in the House thought, look, this is like a 20% chance that this might happen. 20% chance. But if we can just get them to debate, we will have won, because the American people will have seen then that since the 1970s, the most important deliberative body on the planet doesn't deliberate. And if we could just force them to have the debate, the American people, look, I was there. I remember when we challenged Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. The first day, nobody cared. Those crazy people in the House of Representatives causing a ruckus or whatever. By the third day, everybody was watching the TV. They wanted to know what was happening in their country and in their government. And I guarantee you, if the Senate wants to debate for a couple weeks on the Save America Act, all of America will be watching. And won't it be grand for all of us to participate in our government and see that the left wants to continue to cheat, wants people that are here illegally to vote, doesn't want people to have proof of who they are when they go to vote. We're going to be right back on it. We are going to get, so that was the inside game. The outside game, you've probably seen the advertisements. I know the president has. We spent millions of dollars advertising, telling you what the Save America Act will do and how it can happen. Just honest, so you're informed. And most people in America, Democrat, Republican, in the center, on the left, on the right, understand it, know it, and want it. Now, I will tell you this. The leader of the Senate says, we don't have the votes. We don't have the votes. He's probably right about that. You know what he's not telling us and you and me? Okay, I get it. Which one of your senators won't come to the floor for a quorum call? Which one of your, you know what? We have a telephone too. And we can call our United States Senator. Doesn't matter if you live in Pennsylvania and the United States Senator is from North Carolina or Alaska. We can make some phone calls, right? We can turn up the heat. Ladies and gentlemen, this whole thing has been a plan because this is so important. Tens of millions of people have come into our country illegally. Our governor sends them to get a driver's license and a work permit and registers them to vote. He will say, oh, but they're not voting, you have no proof of it. And of course, the press never says, well, how many investigations have you had? Well, there are no investigations, ladies and gentlemen. There's no evidence of anything because no one's looking. There's no one looking. This has to happen. This is the time for this, and this is the president for this. Look, it's 250 years of God bless and happy birthday, America. Great thing. Right now, this tax season, the IRS just reported that Pennsylvanians and Americans are getting 24% more in their refund because of the bill that we did last year under President Trump. Pennsylvania incomes are up $3,500 to $6,500 this year. Venezuela is no longer a threat to the United States of America. Cuba is on the verge of toppling. Iran, I guarantee you, Iran is going to back down. It's going to happen. And we're no longer going to live under the threat of nuclear war. And oh, by the way, men are not going to be competing in girls' sports, right? And we're going to stop the attempted Islamification of the United States of America. We're not going to put up with it. Ladies and gentlemen, eternal vigilance. God bless you. Thank you very much.